Now the other issue that I'm emotionally invested in, if you will, and that is that the Texas Department of Insurance in this state, in this state generally there is a procedure called the sunset process, and every state agency in about a 10 to 12 year span goes through extensive review with a fine-tooth comb, improving the agency, what part's not working, what part's working, how do we fine-tune the part that's not working, and it's an ongoing process. They just don't open-ended get to exist and work in Texas. Well, unfortunately, the only, we're doing TxDOT, we're doing Texas Department of Transportation this time with toll road problems and all kinds of problems. And, all the agencies in Texas, they're on a rotating basis because you can't do them all at one time. It would be humanly impossible, manpower in Sunset Commission, et cetera. The only state agency that has been immune to the sunset process, and the only agency that has been able to escape a thorough review of the manner in which they conduct their business, the only agency that has been able to escape the sunset process and just have a patchwork approach and a Band-Aid approach has been the Texas Department of Insurance. It hasn't been properly reviewed and properly evaluated since 1993. Now, what is the result of the fact that it hasn't been properly evaluated? One of the obvious results is the highest homeowners insurance rates in the country. And a few years ago, they did what they said was they toss around this word reform. It's misused because it has a positive connotation, but really a lot of things they do under the guise of reform are negative and hurtful and harmful to the people that I represent and to the people of Texas. So what they did is in 2003, 6 years ago, they've always done patchwork stuff with TDI, with Texas Department of Insurance. And this time around, it was supposed to be thoroughly sunset reviewed. It wasn't. And they're going to get another pass for 2 more years. And realize and appreciate that if you have a 15 to 16, almost a 17-year-old child, that the Texas Department of Insurance has not been properly reviewed, has not been properly evaluated, and has not been properly governed since before that child that I just described was born. The elected officials, the state leadership, which happens to be, with all due respect, a completely Republican in party affiliation, doesn't have the backbone, doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to take on the insurance industry in this state. A lot of times, the folks that we represent, we hear a lot about what they call tort reform, and that is a civil justice system. There's the criminal side of the courts, and there's a civil side of the courts. And if you've been terribly harmed in a bad accident, if you've been hurt by a piece of machinery that was manufactured improperly, as a Ford Pinto, whatever it might be, that's the civil side of the equation in part. Now they go in the insurance industry in this state. When you take economics in college, one of the first things you learn about in basic economics courses is the thing called the capture theory. What the capture theory is that when you look at a governmental regulatory agency and you look at the industry that regulatory agency is supposed to be regulating, the industry that's supposed to be regulated actually captures, figuratively speaking, the governmental regulatory body and controls it in such a way that they never get properly regulated. And when I say regulated, in other words, to protect all of us from the extremes and the greed of the Enrons and the WorldComs of the world and Wall Street and Lehman Brothers and the $480 million man or whatever that told Congress that he didn't think that he had made enough, and he made $480 million, but somehow he felt he hadn't made enough. There's a social compact between all of us, and a guy like that breaks the social compact that holds us all together, the glue that holds our society together. So what happened with TDI is what they do is they try to change the civil justice rules whenever they need an increase in premiums, but we end up with the highest premiums in the entire country. Now the problem I have with that is that our leadership the Republican leadership in this state, unfortunately, and it just so happens to be Republican, respectfully, they don't have the guts, they don't have the intestinal fortitude. Or where I come from, they say they don't have the cojones to stand up to these guys. And these guys are running the show. And when you look at it, and you keep in mind the fact that if Texas were a country unto itself, we'd be the 6th to 7th largest economy in the world. 24 million people. And insurance companies threaten our Republican leadership. Well, we'll pull out of Texas if you don't do this. We'll do this if you don't do that. And our guys blink, as in the Republican leadership. I'm not Republican, but respectfully, the leadership of the state, they blink. And instead, you have to get the insurance industry to blink. We need insurance reform in this state. No, the review was done. It was just not, it was placed on the calendar so late in the process that it funnels down in such a way that that it was never reached. And some might argue, and some might believe, and I might even tend to believe this as well, that it was intentionally done that way.
So you haven't been able to review all this interim study that was done?
No, it was reviewed, but we did not finally debate it on the House floor or the Senate floor in such a way that we effectuated change. And so what you end up with, and very, folks that might be watching this, they know how to do the work that they do for their careers and for their life's work, and they have a pool of knowledge that I might not know how to do something that they do, and by the same applies to I might know how to do something that they don't know how to do. Okay. Having said that, the bottom line is that we have the top homeowners insurance rates in the country. And we have real bad high cost of car insurance and all these different expenses. They affect a family's budget. College tuition affects a family budget. And I tell my colleagues on the House floor, and I was at the front mic on college tuition, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but I'm saying, how much more can the families that we represent, how much more can they shoulder? How much more can their family budgets handle? They're overburdened. Something has to give. And we weren't here to represent insurance companies. No insurance company voted for David Leibowitz for state representative. And none of my colleagues were elected by an insurance company. Nobody, no one was sent here to do the bidding of State Farm or Allstate. What's going to have to happen now, they put it into what they call a safety net. And I wanted to instruct the other night, I think it was last night maybe, I wanted to instruct the conferees that go between the Senate and the House. There's 5 from each chamber, each body. I wanted to instruct them emphatically that you are not to come back here with the Texas Department of Insurance included in that safety net. They don't deserve 2 more years of life.
So they just dissolve?
Well, the argument was made against me that of course there are people's jobs at stake, and chaos would ensue. I believe there was already tentatively there was already a plan in place to send certain parts of the Department of Insurance to different agencies that would continue to exist. There was a contingency plan. Guess what? Collectively, the House, of which I'm a member, of course I voted against it, but the House blinked. And they went and they said, no, we're not going to tell the conferees that you can't leave TDI, Texas Department of Insurance, in there. So collectively we surrendered. I didn't surrender. And many of my colleagues did not surrender, but we were in the minority vote.
What was the vote, roughly?
I can't actually remember. I'll be happy to dig that up for you. But the point is, I was telling these folks that I serve with, that our people are hurting, that there are serious economic problems out there, that economic times are not good, and we can't allow out-of-state insurance companies, and sometimes out of this country, with all due respect, insurance companies, to run roughshod over our people.